Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a process video for you today. This is going to be along the lines of my Bible Journaling for Beginners series. Today I'm going to be working through a devotional day from Come Away from Bythewell4god, and I'm going to be doing that in this spiral Bible. This is an ESV journaling Bible from Crossway. This is part of a 5-volume set. This is the New Testament version. There are other volumes, the Pentateuch, the books of history, prophets, poetry, etc. And some of those have been back ordered, and some of them are just not available right now, but there are some that are available at Bythewell4god. I will put my affiliate link down below if you're interested, but that's what I'm going to be working on today. I do have a review of this Bible on my channel as well, if you would like to see that. And one of the things that we covered in one of the earlier versions of the Bible Journaling for Beginners series was what kind of Bible should I get? What if I can't draw? How do I pick a verse and where do I start? So I'm going to be sort of answering that last question about, now I've picked my verse, what do I do? How do I go about making a page in my Bible? So there's lots of different ways that you can Bible journal, and everybody has their own sort of version, whether that's just notes in a Bible. This is my King James Version study Bible. I just have some notes from the devotional day written on one of the scriptures there. I am working through a traveler's notebook. I do have a video for how I set this up. So these are my actual notes for this day, which is day 3 of Come Away from Bythewell4god. So I'm using a devotional to inspire the scripture that I'm going to be using today, the verse that I want to use. So Judy's talking about seasons, and that seasons are God ordained. Seasons are intended for a reason, and so nothing is by chance, and seasons are temporary. And so what I'm going to be doing is journaling in 2 Corinthians 4:17, for our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us far more exceeding an eternal weight of glory. That's from the King James Version. I am journaling in an ESV Bible, which is totally fine because I have it written out here, and I have my study Bible like I just showed you. So these are just how my notes look. And if I were to stop here, this would be fine. I have done the study that I wanted to do. I've done some takeaways. I have a quote from the devotional. This is working through this day, but I do want to include this here in my Bible as well. So I'm just going to go through the process of how I would do that, but I'm going to do this in real time. So this video might be a little bit longer than what I would normally do. Usually my videos are sped up, but I kind of want to talk you through the process of where I start. Sometimes it can be very intimidating to have this blank page and not know what to do. Now I'm working with a Bible that has, a margin here. If you're working with an interleaved Bible, you have much more room. And so some of the decisions that you make there might be a little bit different, but this will kind of give you the idea. So the first thing that I do is I have my verse, which is down here at the bottom. So everything that I kind of do with the artwork is going to be more focused down here at the bottom. And I will probably create a title along the way too. But sometimes it can be like really intimidating. So where do I start? Sometimes the easiest way to do that is start with your background. Start with adding some color, putting some color down, however you want to do that. I'm actually not going to be adding significant background color because what I'm going to be doing is using this beautiful stamp set. This is called Quilted. It's from Bythewell4god, and I'm going to be stamping this pattern just down the edge of it. So I've already picked out some images that I want to use, and I have already fussy cut them so that you didn't have to see me do that. Whenever possible, I like to just trim off the white edges as much as possible, and so I really wanted to use this particular image. I just think it's so beautiful. Now, if you are somebody who enjoys drawing, I can draw. I won't say that I can't, but it's not the thing that comes the easiest to me. I will say it would take me a really, really long time. So you may have an image that the verse that you're working with conjures up an image in your mind or a scene or something like that, and you want to draw that out, go for that. I unfortunately am not very well gifted in that area, and so I rely on the artwork of others, as I've said in previous videos. So I'm relying on the pieces from the devotional kit for this. And I absolutely love these beautiful images with the embroidery hoops, and I really love the color palette in this one. So this is what I'm going to be leaning into. And then I pulled out some of the other pieces that have sort of those florals in there, and that just that kind of color scheme. I don't know which of all of these I will use right at the moment, but I did pull everything that was kind of coordinating with this particular image right here. So while I'm thinking about that, I'm going to set these off to the side and work on my background piece. So I am going to use, like I said, this stamp set that's called Quilted. This is a background stamp, so this is a 4x6 stamp. So it's going to be pretty large, and it's going to hang off my page. Now, you could stamp this like over the text. I'm actually going to stamp this so that it's just in the margin and not over my text. That's personal preference. I know that some people don't like to cover the text. Other people, you know, like I said, it's just personal preference. But one of the things when you are using a rubber stamp, try to get a stamping block as close to the size of your stamp as you possibly can, especially when you're dealing with smaller stamps. That way, if there's not rocking and that kind of stuff, it just makes it stamp easier. And if so you could definitely stamp this here. And I was thinking about doing that, but I want a more subtle background, I guess. So I don't necessarily want a full print of this stamp set, because I want this to be the interest that I'm bringing in to the background. So I'm actually going to leave this on just the little backer sheet that it comes on. And anytime you have a new stamp, I like to rub this on just kind of this part of my hand. You could do it on your palm, or you know, because there's oils on these stamps, and so this is just going to help the inks to stick a little bit better. So you'll see me do this in some of my videos. That's what I'm doing. My husband can never figure it out whenever he's doing hubby dubs that what I'm doing, but this is why, because it will just give you a better impression. And I'm going to be using antique linen. This is a distress oxide. This may or may not bleed through. I'm not going to worry about that. If it does bleed through, I have ways that I can make, you know, I can cover that up on the back side. So I'm just not going to worry about that. I am, however, going to add this little page in here. Maybe not. There we go. Just so that I can kind of stamp off the edge and not have to worry. You could just put a piece of paper in there. This is a tall Bible, so I may have to be creative. But like I said, if you weren't really wanted like a bold stamp, you could definitely do that. You could stamp this in a watercolor, or excuse me, a waterproof ink like black. Stamp it on there, and then you could go in and watercolor it. There's lots of different things that you could do. I'm going to be using this stamp really as a background stamp. So I am going to use antique linen, and I'm just going to stamp. I'm actually taking the stamp pad to the stamp itself, and I'm going to stamp the whole, I'm trying to ink up the whole stamp, but I'm not going to be too concerned if I don't get a solid impression, and I'll show you what I mean. I can actually see where I don't have some ink right there. It's easier on a flat surface. Okay, so I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to set it down and try to line it up fairly straight, but I'm not going to push down all the way. So I'm just going to kind of use my fingers and just sort of push in a few different places. And that's going to hopefully give me just a really subtle background. You see how it didn't print completely, and that's exactly the way that I want that to look. If you were really wanted a full impression, then definitely you would want to use a stamping block and, you know, apply some pressure and make sure that you are getting good even pressure everywhere. And I want to try, I want this to look like a repeating pattern, and so I need to get this section right here, right there. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to manage that without, I know what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to stamp this down here. This is just problem solving on the fly, because I didn't think this through all the way in terms of a repeating pattern. But again, I'm just going to kind of do a little impression. It's obviously not a complete impression, and that's fine. And then I'm just going to take this section right here that I want to repeat, and I'm going to kind of try and line it up a little bit. So It's not perfect. It's not going to matter. I will actually probably end up covering that section up, but it just makes me feel better. So that's all I'm going to do for the background. A very, very simple. Certainly you could add more color if you want to, but I really want the focus to be the things that I'm going to be putting on the page, namely this particular image. So like I said, I'll probably end up covering up that area anyway. So now I have my background. That just makes everything a little bit easier to kind of maneuver. But one of the things for me that I like to do whenever I have die cuts like this, that I have where I've trimmed off the white edge, I am going to go around and add just a little bit of archival ink to the edges, just because I don't really want the white edges. And this is not something that's actually necessary to do. I'm trying to find my little tiny dauber. I know it's around here somewhere. Here we go. It's absolutely not necessary to do this step. It's just, you can kind of see, maybe not so much on this one, but it just kind of helps areas where maybe I didn't cut very well, if there's still a little bit of white showing through. In some ways you can do it like really to distress and age everything. But for me, for this particular part, I'm just really trying to kind of knock back the white. Another option, I kind of will show you here on this one. I don't really know which of these florals I'm going to use, so I'm just going to go ahead and ink all of them really quick. I'm not really, like I said, I'm not interested in trying to distress these or make these like look super aged. I'm really just trying to knock off the white that's on there. But another trick that I kind of do sometimes with these, especially ones that have like smaller kind of open spaces, I'll actually show you. Like this one has a little bit of white in there, and I didn't really want to take the time to go in with an X-Acto knife. You could certainly do that and cut that part out. So I will just take this is a Tombow. This color is the number 990, and it's a really similar match to this paper. And I'm just going to go in that little white area, and it's just going to knock the white back just enough that it's not like kind of hitting you in the face. And I'm just going to go around this too, because I think I really want to use this embroidery thread image. I just think it's really cute. So sorry that I didn't have these done, but I wanted to kind of show you just, how you can do that. If the white edge of these die cuts doesn't bother you, then, by all means, just leave it. And it, honestly, in a Bible that has like bright white pages, it doesn't bother me as much as when I'm using like my Interleaf Bible or this Bible that has kind of the cream color. But you can kind of see it just knocks the white back for those areas where I maybe just didn't cut it very well. So now I can sort of determine how I'm going to glue everything down. So there's an idea from the devotional that I want to put on here, and that is the idea that seasons are for a reason. I'm trying to remember exactly how seasons are intended for a reason. And so that is something that I want my page to actually say. So I'm going to try to sort of start getting an idea for where I want to put things, but I'm not necessarily going to glue them down. So I'm pulling the colors, like I said, I'm pulling those from this main image here, which is why I have these particular flowers. And anytime you have an idea or an image that you're repeating through your page, it just makes it more cohesive as a whole. And so I have this kind of orange that I really love, and I really love this one as well. And so I may add some flowers in a couple of different places, but the most important part to me is to get this idea down that seasons are intended for a reason. And so what I want to do with that is, I think I want to use the big tile alphas for part of this title. And then maybe these smaller ones for the other part. I just don't know which color I want to use. So obviously, like in making these decisions, and if this seems redundant, I hope that you're, just stick with me, but I really am just kind of going through this process for sort of how I choose things. Obviously, I'm not going to choose purple because there's no purple in this image. There's no green. I mean, there is some green, but not necessarily this particular color. This blue, I actually really love how this blue looks with this because there is some blue back here in this background. Originally, to be honest, I thought I was going to use this yellow, but in seeing it all together, that's not my favorite either. And then I thought the pink, but the pink is just off a little bit as well. Of course, you could just hand letter this and, you know, it would be fine too, but I really like the idea of kind of pulling in this color. Now these are clear stickers, so some of that background you might see through just a little bit, but I'm not really too worried about that. So I am going to peel off the stickers, and this is just something, the way that I do this and have always kind of done it with tile alphas. I don't know why, it just makes it's just easier for me. So it's one of my quirky things. I'm just going to stick them to my finger and like all the letters, and then I will spell them out on my page. I don't know why, I just find it too fiddly to do it all together. I don't know why, but I need another N. No. Okay. I need another S. I knew I was missing a letter. All right. So I'm actually going to use some tweezers just because that's a little bit easier for me. And so I want to kind of, starting at the top, I'm going to include a title. If you are like me and you kind of got your background maybe in or did some scrapbooking in the past, you kind of know there are some major parts of like a scrapbook layout. So you have your focal point, you have your journaling, and you have your title. Those are kind of three things. And then you have your embellishments to kind of tie everything together. That same idea, those same concepts work on a Bible journaling page. So this is going to be my focal image. This is going to be my title. I may or may not add some journaling, and then these are going to be the embellishments that I kind of sprinkle around and tie everything together. So that's just how my brain works, I guess, maybe because that's how I started as a card maker and scrapbooker. But those kind of are concepts that when I'm stuck for how I want to do something, those are the things that the process that I sort of go through. A lot of times that will start with deciding what my focal image is going to be and then working from there. And this Bible has very light lines in the margins. And so that's going to help me line up these tile alphas. I love these big tile alphas. They are one of my favorite things. I love that they did them again this month. This month they are on clear. They've done these a couple other times. One other time they were on white sticker paper, but I really like them either way. I just love the size of them. And it started all the way left. Sometimes if I'm trying to line things up, especially with a title, and I want to make sure that I have room, I'll actually work backwards, but I want to make sure that I can get this whole word, even if that means like one of my stickers ends up over the text, it will be okay, but it's actually going to fit just fine on here. So I may do a mix of these letters and maybe a mix of some of the other tile alphas. And let me find, I know I have those somewhere. So again, I have the other tile alphas, but these are not exactly the right color. They're just a little bit bright, and they're not the wrong color, but they're just a little bit bright. But I do have these that might work. This was from one of the goodie bags, so I think maybe I will use that. Maybe, oh, you know what I'm actually thinking of is just doing one other main word. So again, I'm sorry if this is just kind of not making sense, but in my brain, I was going to spell out like our intended for with these little tile alphas, but I think I really want to focus on the idea of that it's for a reason. So I think I'm going to use these and just use the word and spell out the word reason with these same letters. So let me pull these off, and then I will just hand write the other part of the title. I like mixing fonts, especially for stuff like this. So that is personal preference. If that's not your thing, you could certainly do that. You could get a label and type it out if you wanted to. There's lots of different ways that you can do titles. You could do alpha stamp, yeah, alpha stamps if you have some that you want to use. However you want to do that. I think I'm just going to stick with my beloved Sharpie S-Gel pen for the rest of this title, which I'm just going to write in here. And I cannot talk and write at the same time, so. Okay, now I can finish my title. And this is just, like I said, a very basic process way to get started. If you are new and you're kind of intimidated by a big blank page, maybe having a smaller margin like this is a good way to sort of work. And sometimes it can be a little bit tricky trying to fill out, you know, how am I going to fill up an entire column? You know, especially like right here is my verse down at the very end of the page. But it's really just kind of as simple as just repeating elements, repeating patterns. Kind of one of the tricks too, I would say, to make everything sort of flow together is to look for those repeating patterns or colors or whatever. And so having this blue color down here and then pulling it up to the top is going to make all of this cohesive, and it's going to make it flow together better. So that's just kind of a trick for that. So that is my main, like I said, that was kind of the main focus that I wanted to put in there. I do have a little bit of journaling that I want to do, but I want to kind of decide now, where do I want to place all of these different things? So I know that I want my embroidery hoop. I hope you can see that. This Bible is very big down here, and I want to try to pull in some of these other colors. And this is the part where my brain just might go a little bit crazy in terms of overthinking. I do tend to do that a little bit, but I'm going to walk you through some of the process about how I decide even where I'm going to be putting some of these elements. So one of the things is trying to balance color. So I don't know if you can tell, I really like this orange part of this flower, but I would not put it here because this is where this orange is already. And so I like here I have the red sort of, you know, in a diagonal. I would do maybe the same even with the orange here. I would put it down at the bottom, or maybe even pull this up toward the top. And then I'm leaning toward not using the pinks, but whenever you have like some images, you kind of want to do them in odd numbers. So 3 is a really good way to do that. You'll also hear people talking about, you know, keeping things in a triangle. In a margin like this, this is a little bit trickier, but it can be done. But it doesn't actually have to be, you know, a equilateral triangle either. It's just really sort of the concept of repeating those patterns. So I was thinking I could add this little brown one kind of back behind here, and this is going to create the balance with these two pieces. I also, however, have this little thread that I really love. It's got more yellow than orange in it, so I don't know if I'm going to use it. I'm going to maybe tuck it back behind here. I feel like it's just maybe competing just a little bit too much, although I could use it kind of down here, and maybe that's what I'll do because my verse is right there, and this will just kind of underline that. I will highlight that with some color so you can kind of see it, but I really kind of like that idea. It does cover up my little footnotes there, but that's okay as well, as this is not necessarily my study Bible. And then I do have some open space here, and that's where I'm going to add a couple of notes, I think. I will probably do that off camera, and then you can see that in the pictures, just because, like I said, I can't speak and write at the same time. But I just am feeling like this needs a little bit more of something behind it. And so I want to maybe see if I can add... So these are the stickers from the Devotional that are obviously the same style, but these are going to be clear. And so I'm thinking that maybe I want to add them maybe back behind my little cluster down here at the bottom. I'm just trying to keep it very, very simple. There's a million things that you could do. You could certainly add like a bunch of layers and start really building up. You could even add another stamped layer in the background that was like a darker color, but I'm really trying to keep this cluster pretty simple. There's only a couple of these that I would think maybe that I would want to use. And so I'm not really sure about that. And I'm not really sure that I'm loving that up there either. If I put this here, it's going to cover some of the text, which again is not my favorite thing, but it's certainly, you know, it's okay. But I do have this clear sticker that I could put right here. And sometimes when I'm having trouble deciding where I want something, especially when it comes to a sticker, I will actually cut it out of the sheet. And I know this may seem very strange, but I can get into my own head too much. And so even though I know that this is going to be clear, so I'll be able to read that through there. But that kind of brings that whole idea together. And then I have, you know, a little bit of color over here that's sort of balancing, and then I'll still be able to read that. I know that that's clear, and it gives me a little bit more space there for some journaling. Just trying to decide. I really feel like I just need a little bit of something else back behind my little embroidery hoop here. So let me think on that, what I want back behind there. I do want like a texture of some sort back there. So let me just stop for a second and think about that, and then I will come back. Okay, so I am back. I went ahead and went through my stash and found some embroidery thread, floss thread, that has a couple of these colors. I'm thinking that I may want to add a little bit in this kind of tealy blue color to pull out just a little bit more of this background. It's always good when you have a color or have an idea, like I said, to repeat it in multiple ways. You know, some in 3 or odd numbers is really good. So even though it's going to kind of be behind it, I'm really loving how this is kind of pulling those colors, and it really just kind of makes the other colors like more, it just kind of makes them pop, at least in my eye. You can see I already went off camera while I was off and just went ahead and wrote down my little notes that I wanted to include there, just to kind of get an idea for like how much room do I actually have to include. You know, now I don't have the space for this floral up there. And so you certainly could leave it hanging off the edge of a page, which I kind of like that too, and just trim it down. That's an option. I'm really trying to bring some of these colors up to the top now alongside this tealy blue color. I don't want just to have only my color down here at the bottom, so I really do need something that is colorful up here at the top. And if I do this up here, I will just cut that off. Things also look really good when they're hanging off of the edge. Your eye just automatically fills that in. So I think I'm going to pull some of this thread here and just kind of layer it sort of messily back behind there. I think that's going to give me the look that I want. And these are, you know, obviously multiple strands. So I'm actually going to separate them so that I have a little bit more kind of wispy threads back there. And I know that I'm not doing this the right way. I don't cross stitch. I don't do needlepoint. And so if you're watching this and I'm offensive in how I'm handling this, I apologize. It's not my skill set, but I do want to use it. I've had this in my stash actually for a really long time. So I'm really excited that I am finding a use for it, because it's certainly not being used in an embroidery hoop. That is not something that I do. I have a knot in here, which I'm going to be very impatient with here in just one second. I'm sorry, I think I'm off camera here. I hope that this is making sense. You'll have to let me know in the comments, or that if this really was helpful at all, hearing this sort of thought process. I know this video is going to be longer than my normal videos, but I do really hope that it's going to be helpful. So I'm just going to kind of let these sort of do what they want back there. I'm just going to kind of make a little nest of them. And when I glue this down, it's going to make sure that everything gets where it needs to be. I want multiple strands, but I don't want them all in one clump, if that makes sense. So I'm just gonna keep pulling these apart. And I'm sorry if you can hear my son in the background. I feel like I say that in every video lately, but he is playing on his computer. He just turned 18, if you can believe that. I'm having trouble believing that. My youngest just turned 18. So anyway, sorry. I know this is not the most exciting watching me try to pull these threads apart here, but I need just a little bit more. And I always kind of do this with my things, is I just sort of leave them. I sort of, you know, try them out. Don't really glue things down until I'm happy with the placement. There's like a fine line for me between like messy and, you know, looking like I put it there on purpose, I guess. So sometimes that takes a little bit of tweaking to get right. And I just want that little nest right there. And I'm definitely going to, but I want it more out than, okay. All right, to my eye anyway, and this is all personal preference, that is much better. So this kind of messy is how it would look if I did it myself. And then I'm going to put my little floral here. I need to swing this over just a little bit. I ended up having to pull my image down just a little bit because I had so much journaling that I wrote up there. So I'm going to, and I think what I'm going to do is this little piece here, I'm going to put behind my image, my main image, and this one I'm going to do over the top. I just kind of like that contrast there. So I think that's how I'm going to stick that down. So now I'm going to glue those down. I'm going to start sort of working from the back forward. So I'm going to start with this little piece here. I'm using art glitter glue. You could use Barely Arts glue is another one that I really enjoy using. I like art glitter glue because it dries really quickly. It grabs hold really quick. And so if you want a little bit more wiggle room, then Barely Arts is a good glue to use because it just gives you a few more seconds. Then they both dry quickly, but art glitter glue really grabs, and you just want something that dries clear. You could certainly use a glue stick or even a tape runner, but as I think I have mentioned this in one of the other videos, sometimes tape runners, you can, over time, you'll start seeing on the back side of your paper, you'll start seeing those strips where that adhesive is, which is not necessarily a bad thing either, because you can certainly cover it up. We talked about how to do that, you know, in terms of like page prep and those kinds of things. There's lots of ways that you can cover up things. And so if you have that issue, definitely you can solve that problem. Just be aware that it can do that. I used to use the it was by Scotch, and over time, like when I would go back through my Bible, you could see that, you know, the tape runner, the ATG gun is really what it was called. You could just see it over time. And so I stopped using that, and now I just use the liquid glue, and I really like that, and it's been working for me well. And I'm not so concerned about it because, like I said, if it shows through on the back, there's always a way to fix that. I am going to add this right here. Actually, I think I'm going to do this underneath my flower and cover up a little bit of my footnotes. Sorry, but that's okay. And I like how this kind of just makes this one continuous shape down here. And I really am liking this orange all the way up at the top. So I don't know if I want to put it, I think I want to do it right there. I'm going to try to get as much of this flower as I can at the very, very top there. But I'm only putting glue on this top half. And I'm going to try to make sure that I can still see most of everything. And if you wanted to, you could certainly leave that as like a little tab on the top. I don't really do those anymore on my page because I found that, like, being on my bookshelves, things, when I would leave them kind of hanging out at the top, they would sort of get a little bit munched up. So I am going to now take this and trim this off, and you can see that I don't have any bleed through. There's a little bit of shadowing from my pen, which is normal and to be expected. But my archival, or not my archival, my Distress Oxide didn't bleed through, partially because, I mean, you can kind of see a little bit of shadowing, but because it was such a light color, you really can't. And by the time, you know, when I come to this page and do something on this backside, you're not going to be able to see it anyway. So that is just how I have decided to finish this page. I'm going to keep it very, very simple, just leaving it here like this. So again, I added some more of that tealy blue color down here at the bottom to really just sort of bring that out. And then I used these kind of triangle of florals here to bring this color now up to the top. So that's just going to kind of bring everything into balance. And then I have my journaling there, and then just a really subtle background. I do want to highlight my verse, which I am actually going to do with, if I can find I have a water brush, and I thought I had pulled out the, over there. Yes, I'm going to use the watercolor dot card. Now these are very intense colors, but this is also going to bring just a little bit of extra color to my page. And I like to use these on an acrylic block. So I'm just gonna, I have a water brush. This is like a paintbrush, but it's got water in the barrel. So I can, this one, not all of them are this way, but mine you have to squeeze to activate, to get the water. I'm just gonna pull up a little bit of this color, a very, very tiny bit, because it's a really intense color, this particular pyrrole red. And then I'm gonna squeeze out some water, just so I have a really diluted version. And like I said, I like to do this on an acrylic block, because then I will leave this to dry, and then I can use this almost as a color palette. So I'm just going to go ahead and highlight this verse. You can see this is going to even dry just a little bit lighter. My little flower there is covering up a little bit of my word, but that's okay. I know what it says. So I'm just going to do that just to keep that highlighted on my page. And that is going to be it. So again, I hope that this video was helpful, so you can kind of see maybe a way or a little formula to sort of work through to start a page. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those down in the comments. If you have suggestions for future beginning Bible journaling videos, I would appreciate if you left those as well. I'd love to try to answer those questions in upcoming episodes. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Be sure to click the notification bell as well. That will notify you when I do future videos, especially in this beginner Bible journaling series. So thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry that this video was a little bit longer than normal. If you stuck all the way to the end, thank you so much. And until next time, bye.